Hey guys, so I was trying to do a Facebook Live for you today, and I have realised you can't do Facebook Lives from outside unless you've probably got some fancy equipment, which I don't have. So I'm really sorry if you turned up specially to watch a Facebook Live with me today, and I'm recording you this video instead to let you know what I was going to say there instead. So I'm out in the garden at the moment recording this for you. And I wanted to do these outside because I've been spending a lot of time in my garden. At the beginning of January, out of the blue, fell in love with gardening. That was it. And since then, I've been reading and researching and figuring out everything I can to do with the garden, and have spent a lot of time out here, especially during lockdown. But there are some life lessons, like the garden has been teaching me a lot of lessons, so many lessons. I've written a blog post about slowing down to the speed of flowers, which I'll put a link to that under this video as well. So many lessons that I wanted to just jump on here and just do 10-15 minute snippets about what I'm seeing, what I'm learning, and hoping that's helpful to you. So these are life lessons, right? These aren't going to be me teaching you gardening tips. These are things that I'm seeing about nature itself. So whether you're a gardener, whether you are interested in starting a new creative project in your life, or whether you're just interested in learning more about life itself, hopefully these will be relevant to you. But the first one I wanted to talk about today was the emotional roller coaster. So it's been a while since I set up a new business or a new creative project, and I'd forgotten about the early days when especially if you're brand new to something, you don't know how it works, and you are making a lot of mistakes, right? So in this world of gardening, I have been killing probably at least half of everything that I've sown and grown, which is a plus, because before, whenever I've tried to grow anything, I've killed 100% of it. So we're on the up here. But it's an emotional roller coaster. So I'll spend months and months and months cultivating some beautiful little seed. I don't know if you can see the garden. I can't see what you can see, but the garden beds over here. Spent ages cultivating them and growing little seeds from nothing into little plantlets, and months and months and months putting them in the garden, and then in one night they get eaten by all the mice or the slugs or whatever it is that ate them all. And crying my eyes out and deciding that gardening's not for me. I'm a loser. I'm never going to learn how to do this. Who am I to be doing this? Why did I think this was a good idea? Blah, 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 blah. And then picking myself up, dusting myself off and carrying back on, seeming to find myself back out in the garden again, sowing more seeds, learning so much from those mistakes and carrying on again. And I see that process never ends in the garden. I see Monty Don on Gardener's World talking about things that he planted that have died and experiments that didn't work and all that stuff. And so if you are in the game of life, it is an emotional roller coaster, right? There are highs and there are lows. There are things that work and things that don't. If you don't want to play that game, you need to sit at home on your sofa or in your bed and never get up, right? That's the alternative. If you're going to play the game of life, it is going to be an emotional roller coaster. There are going to be ups and downs. And so there's a few things I've learned about that mean that I haven't ditched gardening yet. One of those is that a couple of things I wanted to share with you today. The first one is that when I am crying my eyes out in a pile of snot and tears, or awake at night thinking about garden spacing and plans and how am I going to do this and which plant goes where and blah, 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 that keeps me up at night, and it does keep me up at night. By the way, the idea that gardening is good for your mental health. I'll do a whole video about that one. I've lost more sleep over gardens than I have over anything. But what I've realised is I get really miserable, but I don't take myself so seriously. Like, I know that everything I think, when I'm crying, everything I think is nonsense. The content of my thought is nonsense. So the thought, I can't do this, the thought, this is not for me, the thought that I should have done this differently, the thought that I should give this up, the thought that life is telling me that I shouldn't be doing this project, anything I think in that state of mind while there are tears running down my cheeks or while I am awake at 3 a.m. is bullshit. I kind of believe it while I'm thinking it, but I kind of don't, because I'm onto myself. And I know that the content of our thinking in a low mood is predictably distorted, predictably rubbish. And when our mind's clear, none of that stuff looks true anymore. It really doesn't. And so it's a temporary illusion that descends over us. Like, it's a whole story that kind of descends over our minds in a low mood, none of which is true. All of it looks true in those moments, and we'll totally believe it, which is why we're crying. But when our minds settle down, none of that looks true anymore. It's temporary. So we don't have to act on it. So what that means is I haven't ditched my garden. I haven't ditched my gardening website. I haven't ditched my seedlings. I continue to water them. I continue to show up to them. Nature, my seedlings, last longer than my moods, luckily. So when I come back out of my mood, my plants are still alive because I haven't abandoned them. So I just know not to act from that space of lowness. And that applies to any creative project. It applies to any element of anything you're up to in life, whether it's your work, your parenting, your relationship, whatever. Right? You can ignore yourself when you are in a low mood, and guaranteed you will get in a low mood, and it means nothing about your project whatsoever, even when it really looks like it. And that brings me on to the second thing. And I was reminded of this by a question that a client asked me on a Q&A call this week. And she was talking about how, I can't remember the exact specifics, but she was saying she knew she wanted to do something, or that she should be doing something, or that she could be doing something. But she didn't really feel like doing it, or she felt insecure about doing it. She wasn't sure whether she wanted to do it. And it struck me that she believed that how she felt had anything to do with what she does. And to me, it looks like the two things are separate. So I'm trying to hold my phone with my hand here because I was expecting to be able to speak to you on a laptop. So my experience of life, like my experience of gardening, goes like this, right? All over the place. Highs, lows, ups, downs, self-doubt, I'm not good enough, inferiority complex, oh, look at what I did, pride, excitement, joy. It's all over the place. And the doing, the putting the seed in the soil, the watering of the seed, the potting it on, the pricking it out, the planting it in the garden, the continuing to water it, the staking it in, the pulling out the dead bits when something eats it, the replanting, like the step-by-step doing. Imagine, this is a really weird analogy, but imagine a robot just getting up and doing the things that is really obvious that need to be done next. And then there's a whole emotional story that is the overlay over the top of it. Now, if you think one has anything to do with the other, if you think that, this is terrible to say the robot, but if you think the robot should act based on what the human story is, it just doesn't work that way. So there's an internal story, and then there's doing of the next step. And the internal story doesn't tell you what the next step should be, and it doesn't tell you whether you should or shouldn't be doing it. The two are totally unrelated. So no matter what mood I'm in, whether I'm feeling doubtful, whether I'm feeling excited, whether I'm feeling proud of my garden, whether I hate my garden, I can still fill up the watering can and feed the plants. I can still cut the flowers. I can still sow the seeds. It has nothing to do with the mood that I'm in. Most people don't know that. They think that how they feel will determine what they get up to today, and will determine whether they do or whether they don't. Like, well, I can't do it because I'm not in a very good mood. That doesn't make sense to me. It seems like we can do whatever there is to be done regardless of our internal experience. And it's not to deny our internal experience, and it's not to deny the doing. I was thinking this morning, it's like you go to a movie, you watch a movie and you eat popcorn. You can enjoy both, but they're not dependent on each other. They're nothing to do with each other. Being in life, being in my garden is like eating the popcorn is like planting the seeds, and enjoying the movie is just watching whatever's in thought at the moment. The two have nothing to do with each other. But we as humans, we mistake it. We think that how much we enjoy the movie has got something to do with the popcorn, and we think something to do with the popcorn is how much we're enjoying the movie. It's just not true. The two are totally unrelated. So with that understanding comes a freedom, comes an ability to move forward and keep in action no matter what. Right? And to do what makes sense in the moment. And doing what makes sense in the moment might be stopping and taking a rest, and it might be planting the seeds, and it might be watering the seeds. But it starts to become down to common sense and what's obvious to do next, rather than acting based out of what we're feeling in any particular moment, which is temporary, which is transient, which fluctuates from day to day. If I grew my garden based on how I feel, I would be poking it when I feel urgent, and I would be ignoring it when I feel sad, and I wouldn't be getting many flowers out of it. So that's the first episode today, the emotional roller coaster of gardening and life, my life lessons from the garden. And I tell you, without this understanding about how human beings work, I would have given up on this thing a long time ago, I can tell you, because there really have been some highs and some lows. But I haven't, and I'm still here. And I'd like to continue to do these videos each week from the garden, and hopefully you'll be able to see the progress in the garden at the moment. There was nothing here on the 1st of January, and I've been sowing and growing seeds and plants since then. So you will get to see this garden develop as we spend time together on Fridays, flowery Fridays, going forward over the next few weeks for as long as I do this series. So apologies I didn't make it into a Facebook Live, and I hope you've enjoyed this video anyway. Take care.